If you read the Nick Adams stories sitting in this building called Windermere, you can see the fireplace and the reading lamp that Nick saw through the window with his old man reading a book. If you're here at Windermere and you read about the story of Indian Camp, and you really want to know where Indian Camp is, it's over that away, through Bacon's farm, into an intersection that was there, and that's where the Indians had their camp. Now, is that the Indian camp where the husband slit his throat because of his wife screaming for the birth? I don't know. But that's the Indian camp that Nick Adams, a.k.a. Ernie Hemingway, knew. Nick Adams was born and raised, not necessarily matured, here at Windermere. And you don't have to put any highfalutin theories together to make that happen. The dirt tells the story all by itself.
Hemingway was actually here swimming in this water. I was remembering a picture that we have when the family first bought the property. They're all on the shore.
That's right.
And Hemingway's a baby.
That's right.
And I was trying to imagine exactly where that picture would have been taken in this whole.
And there are pictures of the kids here with in a canoe, and then Ernest and his sister Marceline splashing around in the water. Yeah. Grace even made that into postcards to send letters to the family. Ernie said this was also the family bathtub, too.
Oh, right.
Yes. The outhouse in one direction and the bathtub this way at the lake.
Very fitting.
As a reader of Hemingway and as a scholar of Hemingway, this place is like Mecca. It is so important, so central to Hemingway's life, to his work. So to be here is amazing. And it's interesting because you read about these place names in Hemingway's work, Charlevoix, Horton Bay, Walloon Lake, The Point. And to be here and just see it is amazing.
If you go to the JFK Library in Boston, where there are thousands and thousands of archived Hemingway photographs, you start looking at the pictures of northern Michigan, and you see the wildness, you see northern Michigan. But then it begins to occur to your imagination, oh my goodness, there's a lot of stumps, there's a lot of vacantness, there's a lot of open fields. What is that about? That is the reality of the Michigan that Hemingway was experiencing. In his invented imagination, he wanted it more pristine, more grown up with trees. But in reality, the Michigan that the Hemingway extended family experienced, they got there after the 19th century loggers had done the worst of their damage.
A better understanding of Ernest Hemingway's life and literature is now possible thanks to the Hemingway Letters Project at the Pennsylvania State University.
Letters are interesting and important because they enrich our understanding of Ernest Hemingway, who, because of this big public personality that he had, sometimes that caricature, that persona, overshadows the real personality, and it overshadows his work as well. But the letters allow us to see him in a full range of moods, situations.
The value of this work is that it's going to bring together collectively, chronologically, and with superb annotation the letters that Hemingway wrote throughout his lifetime, beginning at a very early age. For scholars as well as general readers interested in Hemingway, it gives us a new Hemingway, one that maybe steps apart from the stereotype of Hemingway that emerged early on when he was recognized for his writing in The Sun Also Rises, a work that in 1926 made him immediately popular to a wide reading audience. So that stereotype developed early on of Hemingway as a kind of macho guy, someone who was a part of the lost generation and ultimately a man's writer, became the perception of him. So the publication of these letters is really important because it's beginning to show us already, with the publication of Volume 1, a more tender Hemingway, Hemingway who was above all a writer. He lived to write.
Dear Ursula, you know, sometimes I really do think that I will be a heller of a good writer someday. Every once in a while I knock off a yarn that is so bloody good, I can't figure how I ever wrote it. I'll bring the carbons down to show you all. Everything good takes time, and it takes time to be a writer. But by Gad, I'm going to be one someday.
If there was one special place in northern Michigan for young Ernest Hemingway, that place was Horton Bay, a hamlet with few residents and a handful of businesses after the lumbering boom ended in the late 19th century. Horton Bay hasn't changed much since then, and despite the passage of time, the spirit of Ernest Hemingway lives on through its current residents and the summer people.
When we bought the store, we were not aware of the intensity of the adulation for Hemingway. We came out here knowing that he had spent some time in this area and that had written about it, but the impact of the store on his life and the references in the stories, specifically the Nick Adams stories, became more pronounced the first year we bought it. As more and more people came through the door, we realized just how significant it was as to the business too. We get people from all over the world. We've had people from Russia, Japan, Europe. Every country in Europe has come through because of the people that have read and have become devotees of Hemingway.
When I first came to Horton Bay, I came as a tourist. Before I moved here in 1980, I came here because of Hemingway. I mean, why would you come to Horton Bay? I came to the Horton Bay General Store because I read about it in Hemingway. And I knew that he was not born here, but raised here, and he learned how to hunt, he learned how to fish here, he was married here. So I came here to look for the church, to see where he got married. And when I moved here, it was a daily thing. I mean, you would be down at the dock going for a swim, and there'd be 5 or 6 German people standing there taking notes. We knew they weren't just taking notes on some dock. They were taking notes because of the point. They wanted to see where Hemingway, used to camp and so on and so forth. And my landlord at the time, because I rented when I first moved here, was in Hemingway's wedding. So, I mean, he would tell me about being, be given a quarter to watch Hemingway's trout line while he was in a tent with some girl.
The major attraction of Horton's Bay for young Ernest was the fishing in Horton's Creek and off the point in the bay with friends who loved to fish, and later, to have a good time.
Dear Jim, and let me tell you about the rainbow fishing. I don't know whether you are a fisherman or not, but you might be a rank hater of the sport and you would like this kind of fishing. Across the little bay from where we live is a point, and a little trout river comes into the bay and makes a channel past this point. And this is the manner of the fishing. We paddle over across the bay and stop at this old lumber dock. And from the dock we run out about 4 or 5 lines into the channel. Do you get the scene? If it is daytime, we loaf around and read and await results. It is the best trout fishing in America. Just this one bay, and the only thing you can take them on is a skinned perch, and nobody knows it but us. An Indian taught it to us. As ever, Hemi.
Today, Horton Bay can still excite those who cherish Hemingway's life story, as well as his literature.
This bend here makes me realize that you could take Hemingway out of Michigan, but you couldn't take Michigan out of his writing. And he would have, this is the sort of setting that he tried so hard to capture in words. And that was a powerful force in his writing, to catch these landscapes and riverscapes in words as the great painter Cézanne did on canvas.
The soldier recovering from these wounds in World War I in which he has been blown up, his mind is continually going back, not just to Michigan, but particularly to Horton, to Horton's Creek, to Horton's Creek. He's fishing every log, he's fishing every rock. He's trying to get his mind back by fishing Horton's Creek.
Dear Boyd, I know how damn good all our old stuff was, Boyd, because everything, almost everything worth a damn I've written has been about that country. It was the whole damn business inside me, and when I think about any country, or doing anything, it's always that old stuff. The bay, the farm, Rainstein fishing, the swell times we used to have with Auntie at the farm, the first swell trips out to the Black and the Sturgeon, and the wonderful times we had with the men, and the storms in the fall, and potato digging, and the whole damn thing.